As their student speaker, Mr. Jason Scheller represents the class of 2019. He auditioned and was selected for this privilege. His speech is entitled, "Just Around the Corner," which I understand is reflected in some history for these kids. Someone told me what that's about. Very clever, cute. Jason, the podium is yours. Come on up and entertain us. There's water down here if you need it, okay? All right.
Thank you to the GOAT, Dr. Ikowski. Eagan High School, friends, family, teachers, staff, thank you so much for the many hours that you have invested into this group of students. A shout out to all the amazing teachers and staff retiring this year. Officer Marshall, Miss Carthy, Mr. Schaefer, the wonderful Mrs. Anchor, and of course, the kindest person in the world, my pause teacher, Mrs. Deo. A shout out to a special guest we have with us today, District 196 Superintendent Mary Krieger. Thank you for giving us 6 snow days this year. Your approval rating is through the roof among this group of seniors. Finally, to the smartest, classiest, and of course, most attractive cohort of students in Eagan's history, the class of 2019. Success is just around the corner. And to understand why, you first need to understand this. Now, fair warning and spoiler alert. This isn't going to be a speech where I solve this in front of you and tell you that you too can solve all the complexities of life. No. In order to understand this, we first need to go back 1,363 days ago to our first day of high school. Some of you may recall seeing a 4'10" version of myself head to shoulder amongst you as we ran underneath the towering arms of the link leaders. I remember being spit out of the gauntlet, only to be standing disoriented and lost as Mr. Becker commanded me to hold hands with strangers. From there, we all went on our various paths. Some of us went on to become state champions, whether it be girls soccer, girls volleyball, robotics, the one-act play, and even speech and debate. Others of us worked for the first time, traveled the globe with our classmates, met lifelong friends, discovered our passions, or had our first kiss. However, one thing that no one experienced this year was winning a football game. Sorry. I would define our generation with one word: weird. And no, I'm not just talking about homecoming freshman year, we're just weird. Parents like to call us millennials, researchers like to call us Gen Z, and we like to call each other for answers to homework. The class of 2019 has transitioned from pencil and paper to Schoology and iPads. We have moved from Campus Portal to Synergy and back to Campus Portal. And guess what? We even get to fully utilize this new and innovative technology on the handful of days the school Wi-Fi is working. All of this made for a very confusing time, but all of us here today figured it out. But today we are graduating, and we're entering into a sort of world as the in-betweeners, those in the middle of 2 generations, those coming of age in the midst of a technological revolution, but also those who are entering into an ever more confusing world. As we move forward, our future is defined by information, more than any of us can process. We are not only segued into the world of never-ending Twitter feeds and limitless Snapchat stories, but also a world with thousands of paths and directions that we can follow in our lives. We are overtly aware of the success of others, the social lives of our peers, and that one person we know who gets Starbucks every single day, Ashley. The sad part is, this could describe multiple Ashleys. We are faced with a million little choices in our academic lives that are supposed to aggregate into this one big thing called a career that is supposed to be the centerpiece of this fantastic life story that is supposed to leave us fulfilled and happy in equal parts. When you combine being bombarded with near infinite information and the freedom to choose between a near infinite number of routes, you end up with a climate that makes it, honestly, really hard to choose a path and commit to it, to ignore what everyone else is doing, to hear your own voice amongst the crowd. It's this overwhelming environment that we've had to deal with that has broken us up into three distinct groups. First is those who know what they want to do and are actually going to do it. Data shows that this would equate to roughly you three sitting up front. Second is those who think they know what they want to do, but actually don't at all. I'd say it's about that chunk of students there. And the rest of you fit into the third category, those who simply have no idea what they want to do. But don't worry, I committed to my college the day before the deadline. Sorry, Mom. There were many moments in high school when I didn't know where I was going, where I was headed, or even the meaning of the tasks I was completing. Helping ease the burden of getting through it all were my three close friends, Quizlet, Slater, and Harvard acceptee Kevin Huang. But even with their support, I still struggled to find the path that I was on that had no clear end in sight. Amidst all this chaos, and a decision tree so vastly intertwined that we couldn't possibly wrap our minds around it, I may be young, but I know one thing. There's no one answer, no one path to a life worth living. Essentially, you don't need to know exactly where you're headed to get where you want to be. Even though, like this cube, our lives have thousands of different paths that we can follow, it's important to remember that even though it seems so complicated, any cube from any point can be solved in just 20 moves. So, what's the move? The only way to improve your skills, to get in shape, to attain a body of knowledge, is to make the decision, a promise to yourself that you will do what a courageous person does. Live life as it presents itself, one turn at a time. And just because those around you may appear like they have it all figured out, you don't have to pretend. It's okay if you can't see the end in sight or you don't know exactly what you're doing. 4 years ago, we took our first steps into Eagan High School with no clue what was in store for us, and today we will be leaving it for the last time ever. As we take the next step in our lives, we will be faced with a new set of life-altering decisions that at times will be disorienting, scary, and confusing. In these moments, it may seem like there is no clear path forward, but the only thing we can do is forge ahead. Life isn't some abstract grand narrative. It's lived by each of us one day and one step at a time. If you meet the tiny challenges of life head on with a determined mindset and acceptance, someday you will end up where you were meant to be. Just make the first turn. Thank you.
Jason Dade Scheller.
Cynthia Shu Young Jo.
Congratulations, class of 2019.